I'm Paul Levinson, and welcome to Light On, Light Through, episode 204, my review of Foundation 1.8, just up on Apple TV+. Well, it was a towering, slowly moving like colossi in motion, one powerful episode of Foundation, with significant changes from Isaac Asimov's writing and also replete with surprises even in the parts of this narration that were not in the original stories from approaching now almost a century ago. Now, you may recall I accounted for any and all divergences from Asimov in my review here of episode 1.7 last week. I said that this series is actually an alternate history of Asimov's Foundation series. But look, that's not a blank check in terms of critical review. The changes still have to work in my book, in this story, on the screen. Once again, spoilers follow. And the big one that screamed out at me tonight is Harry wanting to start the second Foundation on his home world Helicon, not Trantor. Wow, that is a tough change for me to follow. Star's End, not Trantor? The second Foundation being revealed on Trantor was really one of my favorite parts of Asimov's writing, from Ebbling Miss on forward. I guess I can learn to make Helicon work in the TV series, though then again, the second Foundation on Helicon is at this point only Harry's aspiration, not a reality, not yet, so anything is still possible. What is pretty clear, by the conclusion of this episode, is that Gail Dornick on the screen is not the Preem Palver come early I said she was last week, nor the Wanda Selden that others have been saying she was. She's traveling now in suspended animation on a 100-plus year trip back to her own world, and well, I guess that means she could end up being the equivalent of Preem or Wanda or who knows who else sometime in the future after all. The clone story, of which we saw only Brother Day in this episode, was really excellent again. To all who think Day is soulless or heartless, he did try to lend a hand to the old guy who was surrendering his life on the spiral walk. I'm not saying he has all that much goodness in him, but he's capable of real empathy, portrayed by especially strong acting in this episode by Lee Pace, or Pace. I'm still not sure how you pronounce Lee's name, so forgive me. Demerzel is capable of real empathy, too. That's pretty good for a robot. But so far, she remains to me just a very dislikable robot. I'll conclude with another word about the Spacers, who played a role in tonight's episode as well. As I mentioned when they were first mentioned in an early episode of Foundation, they existed all right in Asimov's stories, but as people who lived and developed their culture on and among planets far out in space away from Earth. They did not have the power to fold space. That, as far as I recall, was the power the Spacers plied in Dune. Well, so what this means, in the intertwining literary and cinematic histories of both the Foundation and Dune stories, is that not only is Dune indebted to Foundation, but now there's a little vice versa. And I'll be back here next week with my review of the next to last episode of this season of Foundation.
The Light on Light Through podcast.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that short review of Foundation 1.8. I'll be back here very soon, just in a day or two with a review of the next episode of Invasion, also on Apple TV, and a review of a new movie on Apple TV starring the one and only Tom Hanks. He plays a man by the name of Finch in a post-apocalyptic movie. And then, shortly after that, I'll be back here with my review of Foundation 1.8. So, lots of good things coming up on television. I'll try to be talking about as many of them as possible here on this podcast, Light On, Light Through. In the meantime, stay safe, stay well, and enjoy.
Athens, 2042 AD. She ripped the paper in half, then ripped the halves, then ripped what was left again into bits and pieces of history that could have been. Sierra Waters had read once that, years ago, it was thought that men made love for the thrill, while women made love for the sense of connection it gave them.
Curled Up with a Good Book says, Sierra Waters is sexy as hell. You can find out more about The Plot to Save Socrates by Paul Levinson at theplottosavesocrates.com.
Paul Levinson Silk Code, about an ancient biotech war raging on in secret for centuries.